Hello and welcome to Upfront, the show where we interview the leaders of our community. Today we are joined with Mayor Don Scott. You have a long history here. You've moved around a bit. What first brought you to Fort McMurray?
I was living in England at the time, and I'd originally from New Brunswick. I went to school in England and I worked in England for a while. I met a lady, and we literally took out a globe. And I kid you not, we were looking around the globe. We had different choices. I just finished and graduated from Cambridge. And my wife was from overseas, and we were trying to figure out where would the best place in the world be for opportunity. And I had been to Fort McMurray a long, long time ago, and I'd worked in Alberta many, many times. So we took a look at the globe, and we were talking about it all. And I said, you know, I really think that Fort McMurray is going to be the best place for our future. And my wife had never seen snow before, except on mountaintops. Yeah. And although we got the occasional sprinkle in England. So we decided that Fort McMurray was the place that made sense, and it was the best decision we could have ever made. It's perfect. So
how many years have you been here now?
We moved here in about the year 2000. So we now have 2 young children who just love it here, and you know, this is a great community. It's a great place to live.
And what was that conversation like, fast forward a bit, when you thought, you know, I want to become mayor, I want to try this? What was that like with your wife or just even yourself making that decision?
I never really ever thought about entering politics until I'd been here for quite a while. I was a lawyer. I was enjoying that. I was busy in the community. I had another lawyer approach me in the community. His name was Stafford Gorselitz, and he came up to me and he said, you know what, you really got to get involved in the United Way. That was the first step that I ever took in public service, or what I consider public service. He asked me to get on the board, and eventually I became the president. And then one thing leads to another, and you just slowly start getting more and more involved in the community. There was a lady named Sharon Clarkson who used to be on council. She sat with me one day and said, you've got to run for council, and kind of convinced me to try it. That was a long time ago. And then
what did you say to that? Were you like, no?
I said, sure, I'll give it a try. Okay. And I've always believed, and I always try to encourage young people to do things that they think are beyond their reach. It's a message I've given to young people my entire life. So when Sharon sat with me and said, you really got to try this, I said, sure, you know, if I'm not on council now, and if we'll just see how it goes. And I was successful, and then eventually I was asked to run for MLA, and I did that and was happy to serve in that capacity. And then I became a minister for the province of Alberta, and eventually that time ended, and I thought my public service had ended. And once again, I'm often influenced a lot by other people coming to me and saying, the community really needs you to do this. And that's how I ended up being encouraged to run for mayor. And I talked to my family about it. They were all very happy about it. My younger daughters, I have 2 daughters, the only concern they had is, would you be traveling a lot? Because when I was in MLA, I was away quite a bit. So they were happy when I said, no, I'll be here a lot. So they gave me their blessing once they heard that.
And what are some words that you live by?
Optimism. I try to say that word whenever I give a speech, whenever I talk to young people. I want them to feel that this region is a place where they're going to have a great future and where businesses can set up. You know, there's a lot of great reasons to live in this region. You know, this is a place that people can look forward to the future. So optimism is a key word that I try to say a lot. And I try to encourage young people a lot. One of the main things I've tried to do since I became elected is meet with young people as often as I can. I ask them how they think things are going. I want to get feedback from young people. That's why we have a big board in behind us with filled up with yellow stickers and orange stickers about all the things that young people want to write down and tell me that I should be thinking about.
Right.
So there's a lot of words on this board as well, but I'd say optimism is one of the key words that I try to encourage young people and anyone who's going to come to this region or living in this region to be thinking about.
And then how do you measure success on a personal level for yourself?
For myself, success, I consider it for the region. I don't look at personal success. I look at success for the region. I want the region to move forward. I want to move the bar forward. There's a lot of challenges in the region, and I recognize that, and a lot of people remind me of that. But I want to make sure that the region is succeeding. Now, there's a lot of different ways to measure that success, but I want to certainly move the bar forward. I want people living here. Above all else, I want this to be a place that is even more attractive for people to come to. You know, it's a great region. I love it here, and you know, there's a lot of things that we can still improve and make even better, and make this an even stronger place for people to live. So that's how I'm measuring, I think, the success of the region is, you know, let's get more people living in this region and make it, you know, showcase what's so fantastic about living here.
Right. Less people working here and then leaving to go live somewhere else.
I want everyone living here. I'm greedy for this region. You know, I want more and more people living here. So I'm hoping that over time we'll have even more and more people coming here.
Right. Being the mayor, are you surprised by any duties that you didn't know of before?
No, I had been in the council role previously, so I had a pretty good understanding. And because I was an MLA, I used to work with our elected officials. So I had a pretty good understanding. A lot of people asked me, you know, what's it like to be the mayor? And I said, there's a lot of challenges, but no more than I expected. There's a lot of things to deal with, but that's what you kind of anticipate when you run for the role. So, you know, the challenges are exactly what I anticipated so far. There's always a few new ones arising here and there, but
of course.
Generally I'm excited to take on the role. I've got a great council. I can't emphasize that enough. I've emphasized that they are a council of action, which is what I really want. I want to get things done. You know, I don't want to sit in this chair and just keep it warm. I want to make sure that we're getting things done for the region.
Exactly. And how are you planning on doing that?
Well, we created a strategic plan. It's a document that we did shortly after the election, and it kind of outlines a lot of our key priorities. You know, we have things like downtown revitalization.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually have a whole list of questions about that. Right now we're going to have a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Mayor, Don Scott. Welcome back to Upfront, where we have Mayor Don Scott with us. So before the break, we were kind of talking about the 2018-2021 strategic plan that you have outlined. What exactly do you have on there, and how did you come up with those points?
Well, we all sat together as a council and with some of our leadership in the administration, and we really thought about where do we want to see this municipality move forward in the next 4 years. We have a lot of great ideas in there. There's things like downtown revitalization, strengthening the waterfront. We have such a gorgeous waterfront. We want to make sure that we're taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Things like Willow Square. That's a space that's near our hospital. We've made great progress on that. Improving our relationships with our rural and Indigenous communities. One of the things this council did shortly after the election is we started holding our council meetings in the rural areas. So, you know, we've really, I think, strengthened the relationships with our rural partners in a great way. So we've got a lot on the go. We've got fiscal responsibility as one of our key priorities. There's new rules that were set by the province that change the way that this municipality taxes residents and taxes industry. So we need to deal with that. So we just passed a budget that represented a $96 million shift in our finances from the previous year. So there is a lot happening in this region. It's an amazing amount of stuff that's happening on. We put money aside for a regional economic development corporation. That is going to be tasked with making sure that we have the businesses and services that every other region has. There's a lot of stores that we don't have here yet, a lot of services we don't have. We need to make sure that the businesses that are here are getting the support that they need. We need to make sure that we're branded. You know, I often ask young people, what's the brand of our region? You know,
yeah, what is their answer to that?
A lot of people don't give me a clear answer, so that tells me that there's a problem. So I want to make sure that we have a clear, identifiable brand. You know, we live in an amazing region. This is really one of the, I think, the best places to live. We need to start telling our story a lot better and getting the word out there. So our strategic plan is available online. That's a few of the highlights. There is a lot of information. I would encourage anyone who wants to see the whole thing, and I hope everyone does, that it's available. Please review it and give us your feedback. And we're going to be checking in from time to time to see how we're making out with our progress. But we just went through our budget process, and our budget is in alignment with our strategic goals. So, you know, we have our goals. We're going to make sure the money goes toward those goals as we go forward.
And I saw on there as well, you wanted to obviously have the completion of repairs from what happened with the wildfire. How far are we with that, and how far do we have to go?
There's always more work to be done. You know, I speak to residents all the time who tell me that they're still in difficulties with their insurance companies. There's still, you know, some challenges there. And when people ask me how that process is going, I'm always say that there's a lot more work to be done. As far as the municipality is concerned, we want to make sure that the residents are in a position that they've done a lot of the construction so that we're not re-repairing sidewalks and municipal infrastructure and doing it again. So we're waiting a bit just to make sure that we're in a good position to move that forward. But we're making the progress that we would have expected from a municipal perspective. I want to see the residents getting a lot further ahead, and some of that is out of the municipality's control. It's obviously in the hands of insurance companies. But I'm optimistic that our residents are going to, hopefully keep moving forward and keep fighting to make sure that that they rebuild, and I really want them to remain in this region after they've rebuilt.
Right.
A few residents moved away. I'm hoping that anyone who moved away is certainly going to consider coming back. We want people living here.
Well, I saw within the strategic plan too, it said 80% so far has been completed, so that's a positive, right?
It is. There's a lot of positives. I'm greedy, as I said previously. I want more people, in their homes. I want more, construction happening. So I'm always going to be asking for more. I'm never fully satisfied with how the rebuild's going, because I'm always going to want one more thing to be done. But there is progress being made.
I feel like that's a good place to be, though. Always wanting more in that sense.
It goes back to this sense of optimism. I'm optimistic for the region, but I'm always wanting more for the region as well. So you're never quite satisfied with where we're at.
I know with the wildfire, there was big concern with only one way in and one way out of town. How are we looking into the future of making that 2 or 3 different ways in and out of town, and even Beacon Hill?
Yeah, there's a lot. So each of the different areas, we're looking at seeing if there's a second route out of each of the areas. There's Beacon Hill, Abasand, each of the areas within our community. But in the bigger picture, we're also trying to convince the provincial government to build a secondary route around the community, and that's known as the East Athabasca Clearwater Highway. We've lobbied the provincial government. One thing I can say about the council that I've got is they're great lobbyists. We've gone down for several meetings with our provincial partners. In fact, we're going down in another couple of weeks to do it again. But we try to twist their arms and convince them about the needs of this region. And one of those needs, we believe, is something called the East Athabasca Clearwater Highway, which is another route around the community. There's a study being done on it right now. The municipality put some money forward, and the province put some money forward. So, that's going to take time. I had a good meeting with the Minister of Transportation, but he was very frank with me. He said, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, and it's not something that's funded right now, but it's something that we want to make sure is on their radar for the future. So I'm optimistic as we go forward that it's something that's going to be addressed, but it will take time.
And how long would a study like that take? Are they thinking 2 years, 10 years?
The study is not going to take that long, but it's the actual getting the funding for a highway, because there would need to be a bridge, and it's as the Minister of Transportation indicated, is something that would be incredibly expensive. It took us a long time to get Highway 63 twinned. The residents demanded it. I credit the residents with the success of that. And it's the same thing with another route around this community. It would also open up more oil sands opportunities. So there's a lot of great reasons to have this secondary route.
Okay, we're going to switch tracks a little bit here.
Okay.
The Cannabis Act. It's all we hear in the news. I hear it on CBC
Big
all the
news,
time. Yeah. A lot of people are for it. A lot of people are against it. Would Buffalo be taking this on? Because I understand some communities can actually opt out of it, even though it is going to be legalized.
We're taking it on. We've partnered with our colleagues down in Edmonton and Calgary. So we're involved with them in reviewing what the legislation is going to look like, and then how we're going to react to the legislation. There's a lot of things still to be figured out. So the full direction is not known yet, but we're going to be, we're not going to ignore it. We know that it's coming. We've had at least one First Nation community indicate that they're going to start, growing cannabis under these new rules. We want to make sure that we're ready. I don't think you can stick your head in the sand and not be ready for these things. So we're certainly going to be looking at it very hard, and we already started that process. Do
you know of any surrounding communities that have maybe opted out, or?
I don't. No one has come to me and said that they want to opt out. What they've indicated to me, the people who've talked to me have said that we want to get ready for it. And I think they're concerned that they don't know all the rules yet, and that's the same concern the municipality has.
Of course.
We want to make sure that we're ready, but there's a lot to learn, a lot to be figured out, and that we're still in that process.
What are some of the concerns that surround that?
Oh, I've heard a ton of concerns. People have already started to ask me, where can people smoke cannabis in the municipality? Can you smoke it in a condominium, for example? Are the same rules going to apply to smoking? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things to be figured out. Do we want to see cannabis distributors located in certain areas? What's the distance from where young people would congregate? We want to make sure that we're protecting young people. That's something that's always really important to me, and making sure that we're creating a safe community. From a policing perspective, I think there's concerns there as well. We want to make sure that the police are ready with whatever tools that they might need. And I'm also receiving letters from different organizations, such as the Doctors of Alberta. Mm-hmm. They distributed a letter with their concerns and some of their suggestions. So there's a lot of information floating around right now, and I think that's why the rules are not hard and fast at this point. They're still kind of figuring a lot of the direction out. So, we're the municipality. These rules are going to be imposed on us or set out by the province and by the federal government. And then we'll have some room within that, but until they figure out their rules and their direction, then we're going to have our space available to us to figure out the direction that we're headed.
So with the strategic plan as well, I noticed the aging in place facility was on there, and that's been a real big topic for the past, I'd say, a couple of years, probably even longer than that. But when will the government of Alberta, specifically Ministry of Seniors and Housing, push forward in this plan to help facilitate it?
So we're making good progress. I'm really excited because one of the first meetings we had after the election, me and a few council colleagues, we went straight down and we met with Minister Jansen, who's the new Minister of Infrastructure at the time. So she'd been the Minister of Infrastructure for a couple of weeks, and we had been elected for a couple of weeks. So everybody was pretty
new.
fresh.
Yeah.
Absolutely all new. We went in and met with her, and she made us a commitment that she was going to take a hard look at the long-term care facility mm-hmm. first. And about a month and a half ago or so, I was very pleased. They came up here and they announced that they had that it was moving forward. It was a great announcement. It was an emotional day, actually, and I described it that way at the announcement. It was a big step for this community.
It's really important. Yeah.
It is. So but Willow Square is going to comprise two components. There's going to be a long-term care facility mm-hmm. and an aging in place facility. So the aging in place facility, there is a lot of discussion about that. So what my colleagues and I have done is every time we've had a meeting down in Edmonton, we've been raising it. We've raised it with the Minister of Health, the Minister of Seniors. We've talked about it with the Infrastructure Minister. So we're continuing to lobby on it. But what recently was discussed and concluded is that Wood Buffalo Housing and the Ministry of Seniors, they're doing a study to mm-hmm. What they call a needs assessment, just to determine what that should look like and what the need is in the community for an aging in place facility. So even on that front, we're making good progress. I'm glad they're taking that step. Of course, I always want to see them cutting ribbons and announcing and starting construction on things, but it does make sense that the first step is to take a hard look and make sure that we're building what's needed in the community. So they are taking a look at that.
Well, say you have two seniors, they're in their 80s, one gets very sick, but the other one's still okay. Will this place be able to, say, house the one person who is very sick and take care of them, and the other one can come live? That's the goal. We want seniors, one of the things that I was always concerned about is seniors being separated because of an illness or something like that. Because right now, this community does not have the services it needs to really look after our seniors. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced that the long-term care center and then potentially the aging in place facility is really going to bridge the gap. The other thing that it's going to do is, a lot of people tell me that they want to move to this community when I've traveled around, but if they have an aging parent and they don't see that we have the facilities to take care of that aging parent, that's a bar to them moving to this community. Of course. So that's one more good reason to have these facilities built here. And I'm optimistic that it's going to be built. They're talking about a groundbreaking ceremony in the next couple of months. So I'm excited about that. We'll be there. Oh, so will I. And it'll be one of the happiest occasions in this entire region. No doubt. We'll definitely cover that. But we're going to go to a quick break again, and we'll be back with Upfront Mayor Don Scott. Welcome back to Upfront. We are sitting down with Mayor Don Scott and asking many different questions today. So I want to backtrack again. We're going to go back to the personal level because everyone wants to know more about who Don Scott really is, maybe removed from the mayor. What wakes you up in the morning?
It's really the region, living here. I love living in the region. I try to stay involved. I go to do a lot of stuff in the region, like go to the steam room every day. Anyone who knows me well knows that I go to the steam room. I go to Mac Island. All these staff at Mac Island, not because I'm the mayor, but even well before that, know me personally because I spend so much time there. You know,
A regular.
I am definitely a regular. I play badminton 3 times a week if I can.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes that's not possible because of time commitments, but I try to play at least 3 times a week. I even started taking a fitness class at Mac Island, so they're very used to seeing me there. And I love this region. There's so much to do here. Sometimes people don't realize how much there is going on in this region. It's just people need to take the effort to see what's happening here. This is an amazing place. I thought the
exact same thing, because I've been here for almost a year, and I've heard from a lot of people, there's nothing to do, you know, you're going to get bored. But then when you look, you have cross-country skiing that you can go to, you have arts nights, there's paint night. I mean, there's so much, you really just have to look.
If people want to make the effort, there is a lot of stuff going on. There's a ton of great outdoor stuff. For those who don't like the cold, there's lots indoors. So, you know, this is an amazing region in every respect. But if people want to get involved, there's tons of opportunity. One thing I love about this region is the number of people that volunteer. You know, we're always looking for more people to volunteer and get involved, but it's a great volunteer community and it's a very generous community. If you look at all the giving that happens here and all the different events and fundraisers, this is a really great place in many, many ways. You know, it's a great place to live, but it's also, you know, a great place to get involved.
And the last question I have for this interview, I always like asking this to people. If you could tell your 25-year-old self something, what would that be?
Do exactly what you did. Come to Fort McMurray and make it the best place on earth. And do everything you can to make it even stronger, which is exactly what I'm gonna try to do. So I wouldn't do anything differently.
I like that answer. Well, that's all we have for Up Front with Mayor Don Scott. Until next time, I'm Brieanna McCutcheon.